100 Rubin Street across from GE Canada. It is our legal expert, Brian Goldfinger. He comes from Goldfinger Personal Injury Law, and he has his own intro.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Hey, man, it's been a long time, Brian. How you doing, my man?
Great to see you, newly married man. Great to see you.
I was going to say, I was almost going to call you. Do you do prenups at all? Or
No, don't do anything like that. Only injury, but you'll be okay.
Okay, I'll be okay. How have you been keeping? Well?
I've been great. A bit sad about the Jays, but otherwise been keeping really, really well.
Now, we know you're a huge Raptor fan, but I take it you're just a huge Toronto sports fan in general, so you must have been following the Blue Jays closely.
It was hard not to follow because they were on every media outlet, sports and not sports, so it was difficult to follow. Having said that, though, I do have a beef with TBS because it made it really difficult for me to watch the games when they were playing the 4 p.m. starts. I couldn't do it. It was really difficult to follow the games, and I had a lot of people tell me, it's hard to take time off work because a lot of the fans that come to the games are not just from Toronto. People make the drive from Peterborough.
Sure,
people make the drive from all across southwestern Ontario to see the games, and for a 4 p.m. start, it's basically an entire day commitment. It makes it tough, so...
Yeah, that's certainly true. Colin, we've talked about this on the show numerous times. The Jays, whenever they're involved in a playoff series, they seem to get the shaft. They don't get those primetime slots.
Yeah, but also, too, they were saying this. Like in LA, they had 5 p.m. starts.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so they were affected, too. So it's really just the television coverage, and basically they say what they want, and that's what you have to abide by. And I agree. We are lucky that we get off at noon, so we can nap, we can go to the bar at 4, get there early. But we even noticed, too, like the bars weren't that full because people were still working. And then maybe after 5:30, that's when you would see the place get packed. But there were some games that the Jays were in, the games were pretty much over, and you knew that they weren't going to win, and the bars were never really packed. They didn't have that atmosphere.
Yeah, you didn't quite get the same atmosphere. Certainly not the kind of atmosphere that you got with that wild card game against Baltimore. That's where everything was filled, and again, it was an 8 o'clock start. It was prime time. It was in the spotlight. A little disappointed that the Blue Jays weren't able to come through this year?
Yeah, I thought going into the series, people said the Jays have the advantage when it comes to starting pitching with the exception of maybe the Kluber starts. And you hear from all baseball guys, what wins baseball? Pitching and defense, pitching and defense. So if the Jays had the advantage with respect to pitching and the defense would cancel out, you would think that their bats would ride the wave and the Jays would take the series. But it wasn't necessarily pitching and defense that was the Jays' downfall. I thought they got decent starting pitching. Their bullpen was exceptional. It was the lack of timely hitting.
Yes.
They just didn't get it, and that was incredibly frustrating. And I thought we saw that last year with the Kansas City series, that the Jays, they're just knocking on the door, but can never put together the really big inning. And I think they set a record this year for strikeouts in a championship series, something silly like that.
50 in 5 games.
Yeah.
They're averaging 10 strikeouts a game. I mean, that's pretty tough to do anything offensively when you're doing that. And it's funny you mention that because as bad as they hit, statistically, Cleveland had a worse batting average for the series. It was just they got hits when it mattered. They got hits with runners in scoring position, so theirs counted a little bit more. But I was astounded by that stat, Colin.
I was too, and when you look at this series, the Jays scored 8 runs. Cleveland scored 12. So even if they find a way to score 5 more runs, they can probably win the series. But think about that. Even if they scored 13 runs, that's still not enough to win. So this was a historically awful series offensively for both teams.
And that's why the games weren't... I didn't watch much of the games. I listened to them on the radio. They just weren't exciting. That's my opinion. I like seeing offense. That's me. I just felt like they were never truly in it because I also knew if you got beyond the 5th and Cleveland had a lead, the game was over because of their shutdown bullpen, the way that they were able to stretch the games. And we saw that last year with Kansas City. They had that great bullpen as well. And that was really frustrating for me, knowing that it's a 5-inning game and knowing that they're surrendering kind of early leads. Even at 1-2-0, you just got a sense that it was done.
We're chatting with our legal expert here, Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Personal injury law. It is 10:35. You're listening to The Regulars. This is the Peterborough Round Table, brought to you by Rocky Ridge Drinking Water Limited. Jordan Mercier here alongside Colin Teskey. I want to go back to that wild card game because there was a not-so-good moment for Toronto sports fans in which a beer can was thrown on the field. It almost hit the outfielder, Hyun-Sung Kim.
Yeah.
And I was curious, if that had hit that individual, would you have wanted to represent him in that case?
No. Well, Hyun-Sung Kim, if
Yeah.
he were injured, the answer would be yes. But that it was really bad for so many reasons because on social media, everybody was so quick to point the finger at somebody. I still don't know the guy's name. I think the guy's name has been released. In any event, though, if people were wrong in terms of mentioning somebody's name, saying this is a culprit, this is the individual who threw the can, that guy has a legit case for libel and slander.
Oh, absolutely.
So everyone was very, very quick to point the finger at one individual. I don't know if they got it right or wrong at the end. I just stopped following the story because it got a bit silly. But you got to make sure when you're making accusations saying this is the culprit, this is the guy who did such an atrocious act, you got to make sure you're right, because if you're not right, there are legal repercussions.
Well, absolutely. And you know what? That's what I was thinking too, Brian. And a lot of it came from Toronto police, which amazed me. They were the ones that released a photo. They released the name. And then certainly people could piece together that he was actually working with Post Media. This guy ended up becoming a household name within 48 hours or so. My question to everybody, and I haven't really gotten an answer about this, is, okay, there are times through the year I've been to games in which somebody has thrown something onto the field and the security comes, ejects them. I don't know if there's a little small fine, but the fact that this guy ended up getting charged with mischief, to me, that's almost trend-setting, because you'd almost have to charge everybody who throws something on the field with mischief, would you not?
I think he was charged with mischief because the beer can came so close to hitting Hyun-Sung Kim, and it came during the course of play that it impacted his ability to catch the fly ball. In addition, it was such a primetime game. Everybody was watching. The Toronto police had no choice but to lay the charges. Generally, you're right, they don't. But generally, the Toronto Blue Jays aren't playing in a nationally televised one-game elimination game.
I see. So that does play into the factor here?
I think it would with the Toronto police in terms of laying charges. If you're a lunatic that runs on the field, sometimes they charge people with mischief. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't want to do the paperwork. It's really up to the police.
Oh, man, that's unbelievable. This is our legal expert. It is Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. We had you in months ago talking about the Toronto Raptors, and obviously very exciting. The NBA season's right around the corner. It gets underway next week. Do you expect good things coming out of Raptorland this year?
I hope so. I really do. I love the signing. The Raptors have a big hole at the power forward position, and they try to fill that hole with Jared Sullinger on a one-year contract. I love the one-year contract because it's an incentive for Sullinger to perform. It's an incentive for a player who is generally overweight, with all due respect to Mr. Sullinger. For him
He's
to
got
come
a fat gene, yeah.
Yes, he does. It's incentive for him to come in camp in shape and perform, just like Biyombo did last year. So it's a win-win. If Sullinger performs, the Raptors are going to have a really solid season. If Sullinger fails to perform and they have this daunting hole at the power forward position, they're going to have problems. Those are my thoughts.
Colin, what do you think?
I like the signing too. I thought Jared Sullinger, good college player, had some injury trouble, but I think he's starting to scratch the surface on his potential. And like Brian said, he's got a one-year deal. It's a make-or-break season for him.
It's only the preseason, and I know we don't get caught up too much in it, but looking out at the West, some of the stuff that I've been seeing from the Golden State Warriors is downright scary. There is some stuff where they were beating the LA Clippers, who were using their starters. They were up something like 80-38 or something like that at some point. I know there's always the thing when you get a bunch of star players on the same team, there's not enough shots to go around and all this kind of stuff, but boy, Golden State, especially coming off such a tough loss this past year, a historic collapse at the end of what was a historic season, boy, you got to think that they're pretty scary out West.
Well, they are. I mean, but with sport, we saw it in baseball. You just got to make it to the dance and hope you get hot. And the Raptors are really, if Sullinger performs, they're one slip and fall injury away of LeBron James from, being in the NBA Finals. And once you make the finals, you never know what'll happen. Golden State, they have a dream team assembled. They truly do. But even when Miami put together their big three, it took them a year. They made it to the finals.
Yeah, lost to Dallas.
They lost to Dallas. That's right. So it takes a good year to gel in generally in sport in general, in particular basketball, it'll take them a bit of time for them to figure out their offensive systems and who's going to take shots and who's not going to take shots. And it's really hard when you're a guy like Durant, who is an alpha dog, to come and play with a few other alpha dogs in Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and, of course, Steph Curry.
Very good stuff. Brian Goldfinger, he is our legal expert. He is joining us on the Peterborough Round Table. It's funny you mentioned that they were a slip and fall away from everything else, because I wanted to ask you this question, because I had a friend who actually injured himself in a bit of a slip and fall situation, and it involved, he was walking through a building and a floor was mopped, signs weren't put up, and all this kind of stuff. He ended up getting hurt. And I know your firm does deal with slip and falls, right?
We do, and you want to go into the boring legal stuff, we'll do.
Well,
Absolutely.
I just want to ask a question. Hey, I look forward to speaking with you, because people come to me for all this advice, and I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so with slip and fall accidents and injuries, they happen, especially as we approach the winter months. The property owner is responsible for the maintenance of the property, whether that is clearing the snow, ice, debris, whatever it is. The cases get tricky because in slip and fall cases, property owners are not held to standards of perfection. What does that mean? It means that every snowflake that falls, they don't need to clean right away, immediately after it falls. They just have to show that they have a reasonable system in place to clear the debris or clear the snow or make the premises safe for invitees to the premises or for the public to use. So the onus, again, is on the private property owner, but the private property owner certainly won't be held to a standard of perfection. That changes when we're dealing with a municipality or the city. So if you're walking on a city sidewalk, that standard of negligence changes. It increases to gross negligence, which is an even higher standard. So when you're suing a city or a municipality, that system of negligence, it gets even harder and it gets even higher to sue.
Oh, man. If anyone's out there listening and they have an issue or going through a problem to do with personal injuries, Brian, what's the number they can reach you at?
They can reach us 1-877-730-1777 or visit our website at goldfingerlaw.com. Goldfinger, just like the James Bond movie.
Yes, and we will post all that information, too, on our website. Check us out, extrapeterborough.ca. Brian, thank you so much for coming in. We'll do this again soon, and the next time we do it, you might be a new dad, right?
Yeah, I hope that's the case. Expecting middle of December. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, congratulations. And if it is a boy, Jordan Charles, a very good moniker. I'll tell you that right now. Brian, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All
Anytime,
right,
guys.
that's our man.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the
Yes, be sure to listen to the Regulars Roundtable number 2 coming up at 11:30 with the one and only John Badham.